On this episode of Travels with Bill, we're at Baldy Mountain, Manitoba. Wait a minute, what's he doing here? That's Uncle Mark from my morning show. I guess he's Ranger Mark today. We'll try again. Baldy Mountain, Manitoba, the highest elevation in Manitoba. We're right along Manitoba Highway 366. Now, I know it looks like a gravel road, but you're going to turn in here, and then you're going to make your way into what at first is, well, kind of like a lot of the other campgrounds in Manitoba's Duck Mountain Provincial Park. We've got some washrooms here in case you need a pit stop. There's a little bit of a group use area going on with a picnic table in there, and we've got some outdoor camping as well if it's not raining. Those are perfect spots. If there is some rain, in under the roof is kind of a nice place to go. You could bring a picnic lunch here. You could have some enjoyment, maybe let the kids run around a bit, and even build a fire as long as you're here sometime when it's not too dry. If you aren't allowed to build fires, there'll certainly be a sign posted. The day we're visiting, fires are permitted, so you could build a nice little campfire here and roast some hot dogs. Then things get different. For example, let's start here. Now, this isn't exactly the highest peak in Baldy Mountain. You might think that's what it's about. It's actually just a survey marker. But you can lie to the kids a little bit and say, kids, when you stand on this point, you're in the highest point in Manitoba. Because it does have a nice little official looking sign, right? This is what's really cool about Baldy Mountain. It's the lookout tower. Now, of course, these lookout towers, once upon a time, were all about spotting forest fires. That's why there's a place to live here, because the person that would be working the lookout tower would have to live here while they looked for those forest fires. And they'd go up and look for smoke, then they might come down and make lunch and go and look for some more smoke. The lookout tower is still here. They're not using it for fires. That's been replaced by, for the most part, satellite surveillance. Of course, a little bit with planes too, but satellite does a big part of it. You, though, can come here and go on up the lookout tower and take a look around to see what they would have seen all those years ago before we replaced them with satellites. Well, don't mind me, but we're going to go right to the top because I want you to have the Baldy Mountain experience. If you can't get here, this is what everyone comes for. Don't worry though, we're going to talk more about Baldy Mountain and what else is here, including television and radio transmitters and a bunch of other technical things. That's later in the video. Baldy Mountain is the highest peak in Manitoba. It's located in the Duck Mountain Provincial Park north of Grandview. It's 832 meters tall. That's 2,730 feet. That makes it the highest mountain in the Manitoba Escarpment and, of course, the highest spot anywhere in Manitoba. One of the neat things as you go up the towers, they have some little information plaques here, so you can certainly learn as you go and walk around, take a look at a few of these. It's a bit of a landing spot. Now, you do have to walk all the way up, and, well, we're only part way up, and certainly what we're seeing is trees. We're not really seeing a great view, so it occurs to me we're going to have to go all the way to the top. If you're not into heights, that could be a problem for you, but it's a very sturdy built tower, and it's, as you can see, quite hard to fall off of it. They've done a lot of work to make sure you don't accidentally go over the edge here. They want it to be safe for you. Most people can make it up. If you have trouble with stairs, that's probably the bigger issue than being afraid of heights. I don't like heights, and I do okay on the tower, so I think you'll do okay too. Well, we're getting up to the top level here. We'll just keep on going up. There's a bit of a platform here, so you can walk around and look around and see what there is to see. Well, there's one of those towers that we're going to talk about a little bit later on. Oh, and there's Ranger Mark again. I see he's already beat us up here, and he's peering around. Now, something interesting has happened since this tower was built. The trees kept growing. So on some of the views here, what you see is more tree than view. But check out this side of the tower. See? That's the view that's worth coming up here for. We're not cheating and using the drone here either. We're just standing on top of the tower, and that's the sort of stuff you see. Now, you'll notice the fence at the back of the tower. You think, well, that's to make sure you don't jump off. And I'm sure that's what it's there for, but then you have to ask yourself, well, why doesn't the fence go all the way around? There might be another reason for it that's been forgotten over the years. That kind of fence would actually limit the amount of RF energy you're getting from that television transmitter that's behind us. I don't know if that's why they built it, but it does occur to me it's a possibility. Well, at the bottom of the tower, of course, we have the little ranger cabin, and we have Ranger Mark. Now, he seems to be busy picking the lock here because he's bound to determine he needs to go inside. If you do go in, make sure you don't wreck the place and close the door when you leave. We'll follow him in here and see what it used to look like years ago. Now, of course, there would have been some furniture in here. It would have been made to be a little house, right? It's a pretty cool little cabin, though. He's going to wander around here and look, and so are we. It has been wired for electrical at some point. I don't think there's any electricity here now, but it would have been kind of cool to have some electricity in here and some lights, and I don't know what you do, but certainly with a view like this, well, I guess really the view is up that tower, isn't it, more than down here on the ground? But you can see out the windows and see where you could go right on up the tower. Now, it seems Ranger Mark is making himself at home. I think it's quite possible he's thinking of moving in. If you don't know Mark, by the way, he co-hosts the CJ Radio Morning Show with me every weekday morning. Well, here's proof he did actually lock the door behind himself so that, the animals don't get in and nothing makes a huge mess. Well, he says, we'll have to keep looking. Now, if you go here, there's some neat little signs that tell you about the towers on Baldy Mountain. This isn't the first lookout tower they built. In fact, the first one they built had the same problem with trees, so they had to build another one. Even this one's not tall enough, but oh well. How high are we? Well, that's one of the things that's answered here. The big question in my mind, though, is actually how tall are we compared to Winnipeg? Say, for example, I go and stand on the roof of the Richardson building in Winnipeg. Am I really still lower down than we are here? Well, I did the math on that, and yes, Winnipeg's a lot lower down ground-wise, so even the top of the Richardson building in Winnipeg doesn't have anything on the top of this lookout tower. We'll take a peek from the air so you can see the sort of things that are around the tower. Well, trees, right? There's a lot of them, but the tower does give you a pretty good view. And if you think back, certainly years ago, it would have been a great spot for them to look for those forest fires and work on fighting them to save the Duck Mountain Forest. Now, if you're just a tourist that likes parks, that's probably all you're really interested in here. The rest of this video is about what else you'll find at Duck Mountain, and for technical guys like me that just want to know. So, of course, you've noticed the towers, right? We're looking at the main tower site. This is the tall one. It is huge. This, of course, would be the absolute tallest point in Manitoba, the top of that tower. So what is it you find on this transmission tower? Well, television and radio. At least you used to find television here, not anymore. As we go on up, see the little white bumps on the side of the tower? Those are antennas. They're called radomes. Inside each of those bumps is the actual antenna. They're there to keep the ice off, because here in Baldy Mountain, icing happens a lot. It's so tall that the ice freezes on, it would make the antenna not work. Those are actually heated inside to make the ice melt off. Those particular antennas are CBC Radio 105.3 FM in Dauphin, Manitoba. As we go up, we see the television array. That antenna doesn't have the de-icing in quite the same way. It's built a little different, but that is what broadcasts television. Now, these tall towers, of course, they do come down. In fact, we have a video all about a tall tower like this at Foxwarren that came down. That's what we're looking at in the corner of the screen. If you want to see what they look like on the ground, search up that video or just check the description. I'll link to it so you can see what became of that tower and why they knocked it down. So here's a site tour for you. The building we're looking at right in the middle, that was the television transmitter building. There were a couple channels here, CBC and CTV. Back in the day, this was part of the Shamrock broadcasting system out of Yorkton. A lot of things happened since then, and Bell Media owns the site now. CBC gave up on analog TV transmission here a few years ago, but Bell Media kept their CTV channel going on Channel 12. Well, at least they did until recently. It's been discontinued too, so now there's no television being broadcast off this site. Back when there was, of course, they have an antenna here to receive. What's with the roofs, you ask? Well, it's because of the icing on Baldy Mountain. The ice gets so thick on the tower that when it falls off, it could fall sideways, and it would actually puncture the roof or destroy the dishes. The roofs you see built over top of the dishes in the buildings, that's to protect them and get rid of the ice before it does any major damage. You can walk around up here. There's fences around the places you shouldn't go in, and we'll give you a little close-up of the building. It's pretty intense because, of course, you have to cool the transmitter so it has all the air handling equipment there. Now, a couple of years back when you came, you would have heard some of that air handling equipment running because there was a transmitter inside the building still going. Now that it's been shut down, the building's pretty quiet. See those things that look like big black water pipes? Well, they're not water pipes. They're actually big cables. Those are the cables that carry the RF energy from the transmitter and eventually make its way up the tower. This is a cable bridge is what they call it. Again, it's about keeping the ice off of those cables, so if the ice falls, it hits the metal, doesn't damage the cable itself. They head on over here to the combiner building, and from there it goes on up the tower. And of course to the antennas where it radiates for, well, really a long ways. Because this is the tallest point, there's nothing in the way of this tower. The transmission tower for the TV isn't the only thing here. This is the Manitoba Hydro site. They're using this site to talk to their people in the field. You'll notice the amount of transformers on the poles. Well, radio and television transmitters use a lot of electricity, so there's a lot of power up here to keep all this going. Less is used now without TV. The little white building, that's where the CBC radio transmitter is. It's broadcasting at 105.3 at 50,000 watts. Well, there's Ranger Mark again. There's a couple more tower sites up here. On the left-hand side, that's a Bell MTS cell phone tower. It's providing LTE service, but it also has some other functions. One of those antennas points to the Country Fest site. That's how they get signal to Country Fest if you happen to enjoy the music festival to have the cell phones working. It actually originates up here at Baldy Mountain, then hops on the fiber optic cable and back to Winnipeg. On the right-hand side is a Manitoba government tower. That one has a story behind it because it's not the original tower. Their tower fell down due to an ice storm on Baldy Mountain. They had to rebuild it. For many years, you could actually see the old tower laying in the edge of the bush. It's been taken away for scrap now, but certainly it's proof that ice is incredibly heavy. So heavy, it could even make a tower collapse if too much of it gets on the tower. You know, there's actually something else going on here too. This is the base of that cell phone tower. If you've ever wondered just how big those dishes are, they happen to have an old one laying here the day of our visit. They're huge, aren't they? Certainly when they're up the tower, they don't look that big, but when they're on the ground, you start to realize just what a mammoth task that is to get it up there and keep it up there with the wind blowing and, well, in the case of Baldy Mountain, the ice growing. They have a generator up here that keeps the cell phone tower going in case of a power outage, and there's a little building in the back we should talk about. That's the Dauphin Amateur Radio Club repeater shack. This tower is home to the VE4 BMR repeater. It's on 147.03 megahertz. If you don't know about ham radio, you should find out, because knowing about ham radio is part of joining an awful fun club of people that get to do things like this. Go looking at towers and talk to all sorts of friends all over the world using their radios. Well, if you're coming to Baldy Mountain, you're probably looking for some other stuff to do. The Blue Lakes are very close by. In fact, you go to Childs Lake from here, or to Wellman Lake as well. Beaches at all of those, plus resorts. Blue Lake's especially wonderful. They've built a brand new convenience store building for 2022. Worth checking it out. We'll take a peek again around the landscape from the top of the television and radio tower on Baldy Mountain. Have you subscribed to Travels with Bill yet? Well, hit the subscribe button. You'll be the first to see our new episodes. Hit the thumbs up to make sure everybody knows this is an episode worth watching. We'd love to have you as a subscriber and supporter of our channel. The topic for this episode suggested by a viewer like you. So besides leaving a comment about the video, leave a comment to tell us what you'd like to see next on Travels with Bill. Well, we've enjoyed giving you a tour not only of the Lookout Tower, but some idea of what these other towers do too. Farewell for now. From the top of Manitoba, as tall as you can go, at Baldy Mountain in the Duck Mountain Provincial Park. We'll see you next time on Travels with Bill.